señora Isabel Verver de la Vega, is that correct?
That's
your
correct,
name?
that's it.
Sí.
¿Cómo está?
Buenas tardes, I'm glad to be here at your home in Las Vegas, Nevada. The topic that we're going to cover today is a little school of 400 that LULAC started in the 1950s. And my understanding is that you were one of the teachers in Ganado, Texas, that was teaching the Mexican-American children there in Ganado.
Yes.
How did you first get started as a teacher there in Ganado for the little school of 400?
Well, it just happened that when I started school, I spoke no English at all. My mother was born in Laredo, Texas, but spoke no English. Mm-hmm. My dad was from Mexico, but you know, he became a U.S. citizen. Nevertheless, they didn't speak any English, so obviously, when I went to school, I spoke no English. And my brother had told me that if I needed to get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, or I was sick, just raise my hand and tell the teacher. Only problem is, I told the teacher I need to go to the bathroom, but she didn't understand me. Eventually, she put her hand on my shoulder so that I could sit down, and I did. And I had an accident, and I was embarrassed. I was I started crying, you know, I was all overwhelmed with what had happened to me. Mm-hmm. And probably was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I know that on that day, I said I would learn how to speak English, and you know, I did. Because I had learned English, my dad's compadres would always ask them if they could, you know, take me with them to their wives go to the doctor so I could interpret for them. I became good at it, you know.
And what age was that?
And I started doing that when I was about 8 years old.
Interpreting.
Okay.
And this is for los compadres.
For los compadres, neighbors, you know, that would come and ask my mom or my dad, please, nos presta, you know, can I borrow Isabel so she can go, you know, and interpret. Mm-hmm. When they went to the doctor, obviously.
Would you get paid?
No, it was all volunteer, you know, so compadres, familias, whatever, you know. Doctor's office, I had taken somebody, you know, I was with them. Mm-hmm. I don't remember who it was, but I remember reading about Tijerina and LULAC and how much he was into education and, you know, the things that he was doing. And I said, oh my God. You know, my marbles in my head started rolling, mm-hmm. and suddenly I had this idea that, gosh, you know, I could teach the kids during the summer when the school is closed down. Mm-hmm. You know, if I can teach them, you know, the ones that are going to start school the next year, if I can teach them just basic English language, you know, words so that they could just communicate with the teacher, like if they're sick, you know, if they're hungry, you know, if they need to get a drink of water, if they want to go to the bathroom, I can just teach those things. I don't know why, but you know, I found out that I called information. I got Tijerina's phone number because they said they had restaurants. He was the owner of restaurants, right. Tijerina's restaurants in Houston. Mm-hmm. I got the number. I called him up. I identified myself, and I told him that, you know, this is what's happening over here where I live, and I think this is, you know, I can do this. If you can help me, I know that I can do this during the summer, you know, and I can teach them, and they don't have to. He says, I'll come next week. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, you know, I couldn't believe it. And now I got to tell my dad. Mm-hmm. I got to tell my dad this idea I have, what I want to do, and I know he's going to say no, because the only thing then was you learn how to pick cotton, you learn how to chop cotton, and, you know, that's it. You don't need no education because you got to survive. Mm-hmm. That was then, you know. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately for many of our parents, you know, that so was they came the down. The first time I ever seen a Cadillac, he came in a black Cadillac. I could have, wow, what a car. Mm-hmm. So he came in, they invited him in the house, and then I told him what I would like to do, just like I explained to you before. And he was just elated. He couldn't believe it. He says, tell me what you need. Just tell me what you need. Mm-hmm. And he says, I'll go talk to the principal. Oh, no, don't talk to the principal. I'll get to school for you. I says, because I'm in the office all the time, because I was always getting kids out of trouble, you know. Because when we went to school, we were segregated, okay? And so we were roped up, you know, the playgrounds were roped off and all that. I go to him, he thinks it's a great idea. He says, who's the responsible party? I told him he'll come and meet with you. just tell me when, and Tejerina came down, met with them, and
So once you
go.
get started teaching these classes, how old were you then?
When I started, I would say I was about 14 and a half, something like that.
Okay, and your parents gave you permission?
Yes.
Okay.
But I need to back up and say to you, because I think it's important, that when I said to Tijerina that these are basic, I want basic. So then Tijerina said to me, how about if I bring a professor to meet with you? And then the two of you, you tell that professor what you want, and then together you can form some words. And I said, okay. And so before we started school, he did that. And gosh, I wish I could remember the name of the professor, but I can't.
Did he come from Houston?
He came, I believe he came from Houston.
Okay.
I believe but I'm not sure, but I believe he might have.
Was he an Anglo or Mexican American?
No, he helped me with the development of the 400.
Was there a grading system that you used where they got an A or B, or how did you grade them?
No, I didn't grade them. What I did do is, one of the things that Tijerina did, and he said, what do you need? You know, before I started putting this thing together, he said, tell me what it is that you need. And I said, well, I would like to have milk or cookies, oranges, apples, you know. I said, so when they learn that this is what they get in return. And so this is what I never graded the children, I never did that. What I did do is that when they learned something, they would be
What
rewarded.
happened at the end of the 3 months? Was there a graduation ceremony? What took place? Did Mr. Tejerina come and give the kids?
Yes, he
what
did.
happened?
Yes, Tijerina came down, and he brought a lot of goodies for us, cookies, candies, and little trinkets, you might say, to give to the children. Okay. We invited the parents. Some parents was able to make it, some parents were not. And I know that they took pictures, but unfortunately I don't have. And I think one of the reasons is, even though they sent me stuff, I was too young to realize, what we actually had done. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until later in life that I realized that maybe I actually did something that was good, really good. And I didn't realize that, so therefore I never,
So how long did you teach within the School of 400?
I did it a couple of semesters. Okay. And then I had to go to work because my father was a farmer, and you're from Texas, hurricanes, right? And they wipe out the whole crop, So we had a bad year, wiped out the whole crop, and I was the only one that could go to work because I was the English-speaking kid. So
you would have continued teaching if it were not that you had to work?
Oh, yes. I was very, bubbly, very active, very, and maybe that helped. I don't know. But I do know that almost immediately you saw the difference. I started out with 5 children, okay? And I said, this is not going to work. I expected to get more children because I went knocking door by door. But remember, learn how to pick cotton, learn how to chop cotton. We have to put food on the table. That was our parents. Food on the table for all the children, okay? And almost every parent was the same over there at that time. So 5 children I start with. So I says, how do I get other kids to come in? They're going to, I have to show the parents. I have to show the other parents, this is what we can do with the kids. So remember I told you earlier the first sentence was, may I please go to the bathroom? I says, I want you to listen to, and I took those kids with me. I want you to listen to these kids, what they have learned in 1 week. Please give me your child so they can learn what they've learned, and they're going to learn more.
So you used your students as models.
Right.
Of what the other kids could learn.
Exactly.
And you took them to the houses.
Exactly.
And talked to the parents.
Exactly. Okay. And you know what? Before you know it, it exploded for that summer. It exploded. Before you know it, it exploded.